Rick, welcome back.
Hey, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Now, Rick, when we last spoke to you in July, you were beginning initial shipments of your next generation PCT system. Can you give the audience an overview about the technology and what makes it unique compared to other current technologies?
Sure, love to. We are a life science tools company. We make instruments and consumables that we sell around the world to researchers that are in the life science field, particularly those that are working with biological samples, human, animal, plant, and microbial cells. These are the scientists that are in the front line of looking for cures and preventive strategies for cancer, heart disease, and many other ailments that affect us and many others. So we are making these instruments. We now have 5 different instruments. 2 of them are on the market. 3 of them are very close to being on the market. And it's a razor blade story in that we sell instruments and we sell consumables. Now, you might ask, what does the instrument do? The instrument is basically a high pressure chamber. It allows the researcher to put their samples, their cells, their tissues, their proteins, their DNA under pressure. Pressures that range from several thousand pounds per square inch all the way up to 90,000 pounds per square inch. Everything in nature has a pressure point. Everything can be manipulated. It can be broken open. It can be inactivated. It can be killed. So we can kill viruses. We can open cells to get out all of the things inside the cells using various levels of pressure. That's what our instrument does. Our instrument allows the researcher to put their samples in our consumable, put it in a pressure chamber, dial in through the computer the amount of pressure, how long under pressure, and how many times they want to turn their pressure on and off, which is why we call it pressure cycling technology. Once they have that, John, once they know the pressure, let's say we know that for an HIV virus, it's 17,000 pounds per square inch. If you go up to 17 and back in 1 minute, 30 times in a row, you can kill the virus. You're going to be able, as a scientist, to break open that sample and manipulate that sample the same way every time.
Rick, your technology is the centerpiece of a co-marketing deal you signed with SCIEX over this summer. SCIEX, of course, is a global leader in mass spectrometry. Can you tell us about that agreement and what does it mean for Pressure BioSciences?
Well, a mass spectrometer is a very interesting, elegant, and expensive machine that is used as the gold standard for reading a protein, understanding a protein, the structure of a protein. And there are about 16,000 labs, we believe, around the world that have at least one mass spectrometer. You can't put a cell or a protein directly into the mass spectrometer. You need to break open the cell, which is what our machine does. You need to pull out the proteins, find the protein of interest, and then break that protein down into what we call its building block, its peptides. And then that's what you put into the mass spectrometer. This is what our machine does. Our machine breaks the cells open, and when you pull out the protein of interest from the cell, we can break it down to the smaller building blocks that are put into the mass spectrometer. The mass spectrometer then reads the building blocks and tells you exactly what the structure is of that protein. So when you're looking to find a protein that's related to a disease or to a cure or prevention of a disease, you often use a mass spectrometer to study that protein. With 16,000 labs, that means 16,000 laboratories have a need to break open cells. We have the new method, we think the best method out there, to break open cells in a very reproducible, very exquisitely controllable fashion. So with SCIEX is one of 6 companies in the world that are the major companies supplying the mass spectrometer to these 16,000 labs. And we are now in a co-marketing agreement with them. We've just finished the first year. We're entering our second year. Very excited about it. The first year was a year to get to know each other and to get to know each other's technology. Second year, we think, is going to be much more aggressive in terms of its impact on us and our revenue. And so we're very excited about entering the second year with one of the top 6. In fact, I've read a number of articles that say that SCIEX has the most market share of all 6 selling their mass spectrometer into the protein market worldwide.
Rick, you just received your CE approval. Can you tell investors what that means in terms of sales?
You know, John, we're very, very excited about getting our CE mark. There are a number of countries around the world, many dozens of countries that will not allow a company like us to bring our product into their country and sell it to the labs in that country without having a CE mark. We've been working on this. It's generally, I've a lot of experience in here. It's generally taken us about a year in the past to get CE marks for some of the other companies I've worked with. We got this CE mark in less than a year. In fact, we got it in about 7 months. We really focused on it. We're now CE marked. Our Baricycler, what we call 2320 Extreme, our new next generation instrument, has the official CE mark. This means that we are now going to be able to open up sales of this instrument to dozens and dozens of countries that before today we could not sell to. This means our distributors overseas are going to be able to sell into these countries. So we're very excited about this. Now, this concomitant with the additions that we're making to our sales team, we're looking at this as 1 + 1 = 3 or maybe even 4. We have more salespeople. We've had a half a salesperson up to now. Now we're going to have, before the end of, we think, the second quarter, we're going to have as many as 4 salespeople on staff. And with the CE mark, this is going to enable us to go to, as I said, dozens and dozens of countries, and to be able to get our instrument in there and sell it to researchers throughout those countries. So very exciting news for us to be able to CE mark our instrument.
All right, well, thanks for sharing that, Rick. Now, you had a lot of success on the financial front last year in 2016. You cleaned up your balance sheet, and in November, you closed a $2 million line of credit. Of course, our viewers who read the report we issued on Pressure BioSciences were expecting these developments, including the S1 the company filed before the year end. A portion of the new capital will help you expand your sales, marketing efforts, and it's an opportune time as the Cancer Moonshot Initiative gets underway. Can you tell us more about that program, and where does Pressure BioSciences fit into it?
Well, that's an interesting question. Cancer Moonshot Initiative was discussed initially by President Obama in his January 2016 State of the Union address. And this is a program that it hopes to push the research in cancer to a point where we can do in 5 years what would normally take 10 years in terms of the data, the information that's generated. Now, to do that, to study cancer, scientists around the world need to study cells. They need to open cells. They need to get out proteins, DNA, and other molecules. Again, we are a company with what we think is the next generation method for breaking open cells and getting out proteins. So we believe we fit very well into the Cancer Moonshot. You mentioned earlier that we do have a new instrument. This instrument came out in June of 2016. We think this instrument goes well beyond our existing instrument. Existing instrument is a gorgeous instrument. This one actually has more bells and whistles. We've been able to manufacture 14 systems in the second half of the year. All 14 have been sold. I would say roughly half of them went to laboratories that are involved in the Cancer Moonshot. So they're going to be using our system to break open cells to release proteins in particular to be studied as the next means of trying to understand how cancer progresses, how we can prevent it, how we can cure it. So very excited that our new instrument is 50% roughly of the instruments already made have gone into the Cancer Moonshot Initiative. 3 went to Australia, several went to Germany, and the rest are sold in the U.S. We think that number will increase dramatically in 2017.
All right, now, Rick, our analyst expects Pressure BioSciences to uplist to the NASDAQ in the first half of 2017. That's a compelling situation for new investors, but there are many other reasons to be interested in Pressure BioSciences. Richard, what's the essential value proposition? Why should investors take an interest in Pressure BioSciences today?
I understand that RedChip has a research report out and is talking about a potential uplist of the company. Unfortunately, because we have an active file in with the SEC, I can't comment on the S1 and on the NASDAQ uplist. But what I can say is, basically, is to summarize where we are. The company has paid off $3 million of flawless debt. We have debt on the books, but that debt is secured debt that is sitting at a conversion price of 28 cents. The company has a $2 million line of credit. We do not have to raise money right now. We have the ability to borrow from this line of credit. We also raised, as you mentioned, $600,000 in a small pipe in the fall of last year. So our debt is very much under control. We don't need to raise money because we are in a position where we have secured a line of credit that is under very favorable terms. We have over 150 users with over 275 instruments and 100 papers already out in the field. So all of this is pointing to a value proposition which says, If it's important for a scientist who's working in human disease, animal disease, plant disease, if it's important for that scientist to study what's inside a cell, and we know, of course, it is, then it's important for them to have the best means possible to break open that cell to get access to those things, those proteins, those lipids, that DNA. That's what we are offering. The company is in a much more stable position than it was a year ago, 2 years ago, with all of the things that you and I just mentioned. So we're looking at 2017 as a terrific opportunity for us to focus on the one thing that we really haven't had the ability to focus on in the past, and that's sales and marketing. That's the value proposition here. This is a company that has put its ship in line. It's moving in the right direction, in our opinion. We've cleaned up our balance sheet. We've gotten the key opinion leaders in. We've got the papers. We've got the new instrument. Now we're going to hire the sales and marketing team. We are hiring the sales and marketing team and looking forward to a key focus, number one, on sales and marketing in 2017.
Rick, a compelling argument to be an investor in Pressure BioSciences. It's always a pleasure talking to you. We look forward to hearing from you and Pressure BioSciences in the future.
I really appreciate the opportunity to be on the show. Thank you, John.
Now, to get more information on any of the companies featured today and to learn about dozens of other microcap companies, visit RedChip.com. And while you're there, subscribe to our weekly newsletter. It is free. Join the nation. You'll get a plethora of stock ideas of emerging growth companies, interviews, research reports, industry news, and much more. And again, it's all free. RedChip.com.